Hi, everybody. Happy Friday. My name is Chris Krashisnik. I'm with the Krashisnik Group. I'm with eXp Realty, and I am a full-service residential realtor licensed in Maryland, Virginia, West Virginia, and DC. I love to help people buy and sell homes. Today's topic is closing costs. We're going to have a little counseling or education minute on closing costs for the buyer. What are a buyer's closing costs? First, I want to thank you for coming and visiting my page and consuming my content. Please hit the subscribe below so you can get notifications and share this content far and wide. I appreciate you guys being here. So, closing costs. Closing costs, by definition, are the fees you have to pay in order to acquire the property. That is in addition and in excess of your down payment, okay? The next question would logically be, how much are closing costs typically? Well, that varies from jurisdiction and state and county because transfer taxes are paid in some counties by just the seller or by the buyer or seller, or it's negotiated for contracts. But you can expect your closing costs to be about 2.5% to 3% of the purchase price on resale properties. On new construction, it's going to be slightly higher because in most new construction transactions, the builder makes the buyer pay all of the transfer taxes and a majority of the fees associated with finishing the property out and going to settlement. There's 4 parties that will need money from you, that will need to be compensated or be collecting money from the buyer at closing. Number 1 is the government. Number 2 is the lender. Number 3 is the title company. Number 4, potentially the buyer's broker. Okay, so I'll hit all these items as I'm going down. Number 1, the government. The government typically charges, the state or the county, or perhaps both, is going to charge transfer taxes of some form or another, but they're going to tax you on the transferring of the property. Depending in some jurisdictions, the seller may have to pay all of it, but in many jurisdictions, it's negotiated, and it's not uncommon for the buyer and the seller to split that cost. I will note, in Maryland, there is such thing as a first-time home buyer credit, where your portion, the buyer's portion of the state transfer tax, is waived on your first transaction. That comes out to 0.25% of the purchase price as a discount to the buyer. So if you're a first-time Maryland home buyer, your transfer taxes will be slightly reduced for that purpose. And that's to incentivize home ownership in the state of Maryland. In addition to transfer taxes, there's recording fees. So the county has to keep a record of all of the transactions and who owns the properties and what liens are attached to the properties and stuff. And the title company is going to have to send the documentation down to the county. They got to enter that into their records, and they're going to charge a fee for that. So you're going to get charged for that as well. Number 2 institution that's going to take money from you is the lender. A lender is going to loan you the money, but they have to charge you fees in order to extend that to you, in addition to the interest that they're going to charge over the life of the loan. So underwriting fees, processing fees, appraisals, which are typically paid outside of closing, and then the lender is going to set up your escrows. And if you have FHA or VA financing, you may have to pay a funding fee that the lender is not going to charge, but it's got to be passed along to the buyer that FHA or VA is going to charge the lender in order to originate that loan. There may also be something called an origination fee by the lender. All of these fees are kind of interchangeable, and some institutions call them this fee, some institutions call them that fee. But you should have about 1,500 to, you should have less than 1% of your purchase price should be loan fees, okay? The third institution that's going to charge you money at settlement and be part of your closing costs is going to be the title company. The title company has to perform a title search to make sure that the owner that is selling the buyer the house actually has clear title to the property so they can sell you the property with a clear title. They're going to also perhaps do a survey. They're going to have to coordinate with the homeowners association. They're going to have to calculate and prorate the property taxes and anything that's been paid ahead of time so the buyer can reimburse the seller back. All of that costs money, and it's going to take some processing fees. So there's about $1,000 to $1,500 of processing fees that the title company is going to charge to the buyer. In addition to the fees that they're going to charge to settle the property, they're also going to offer you title insurance. And there's two forms of title insurance. There's the owner's title insurance, which protects the homeowner against any claims to the title. And then there's the lender's title insurance, which protects the lender against any claims to the title. Homeowners is optional. We often recommend that homeowners buy title insurance. You just have to buy it one time, and every time you refinance the property, you don't have to pay for it again. And if you're talking about a property or an investment that's worth hundreds of thousands of dollars, a few $100 is not a bad idea to protect yourself against a potential major problem, as if you bought the property and you really don't have the right to own the property. Okay. And title insurance, we can get into that in a different video, but it's to protect you against any claims against the property, and it's to protect the lender. And the lender requires you to have title insurance if you get a mortgage. Okay. The last one is the buyer's broker. And what we've seen in the last 20 years in the real estate market is a lot of the times the buyer's broker, the company, will charge an administration fee. That administration fee can be as little as $100, and in some cases I've seen it as high as $700. That varies with whoever you're using and whoever you've chosen to represent you, and that's typically collected at settlement. I will note that the VA will not pay a buyer's admin fee. Okay, if there's any VA financing, the first thing they do is scratch the buyer's admin fee. Okay, so when are you going to know how much your closing costs are going to be? Well, there's 3 times that's going to be made or disclosed to the buyer. Number 1, when the buyer first makes an application with the loan officer has to get the property information, make a estimated closing cost, and disclose that to you. And that's pretty darn accurate, okay? Then you're going to go through your financing and inspection process, and when the loan commitment is done, 3 days, at a minimum of 3 days before settlement, the lender has to give you almost a completely accurate breakdown of what your closing costs are, okay? If closing costs end up being more than that, the lender is actually legally obligated to pay the difference. The only way your closing costs can change at that point is if they go down, okay? And then, of course, you're going to get a 3-day period to review that, and then you review it at the settlement table on the day of closing, okay? One thing to note for closing, if you are closing and you have to bring funds to the table, which in 99% of real estate transactions, you're going to end up bringing funds to the table, you cannot use a personal check, okay? Reason being is at closing, they want everything done and they don't want to have to deal with bounced checks because that could potentially create a hornet's nest. So title companies will only accept certified funds in the form of a bank check or a money order that's made out to the title company, or a wire transfer. Side note on a wire transfer, there's a lot of wire fraud in the real estate market right now, and title companies and lenders are going to require you to validate any wire transfer that goes through. So be prepared for that. Okay. And I think that covers everything. We talked about how much your closing costs are going to be, who's going to ask for what, and then how you're going to bring it to settlement. I hope you found this video informative. I hope you have a wonderful weekend. It's a beautiful, the weather's supposed to be amazing. And after first week of school, or the first few weeks of school for everybody, I'm sure we can enjoy a couple days of relaxation. Thank you very much, and have a great weekend.